Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of Luke, the 12th chapter. In the meantime, when they were gathered together an innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trode one upon another, so there were so many of them that they were like almost stepping on each other. He began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. And clearly he wasn't here talking about actual leaven, all right, but similar to what leaven does, the leavening agent does to bread. This is what their hypocrisy was like, okay? And he said that because I believe it was in the previous chapter as to how they would condemn others for things that they themselves would be secretly guilty of. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. Meaning that everything is going to come to light, right? And would reveal the true thoughts, intents, and all of that of everybody. As in, for example, in this case, you had the Pharisees that were being hypocrites. And guess what? A part of what Yahushua did was even revealing that. And that's why a lot of them didn't like him. And I say unto you, my friends, be not afraid of them that can kill the body, and after that have no more that they can do. Right. So even if they put you to death, they take you to the governor or whatnot and get permission to put you to death, because at this time we were able to govern ourselves to a degree, but you couldn't just go ahead and issue out a capital punishment. That had to be authorized by the Romans. So in this case, whether it's a Roman governor or so on. So as the Lord is saying here, they can put you to death. They can kill your body, but that's it, right? There's nothing more they can do after that. But I will forewarn you of whom ye shall fear. Fear him which after he hath killed hath power to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him. Now, that's talking about the Most High. Now, the hell here is not dealing with like a place where you go and burn forever, right? The general Christian concept of hell, that doesn't exist biblically. Hell can mean one of two things. One being the grave, where when you die, you go down to the grave. In the Hebrew word for hell being sha'awal means that. But hell can also represent a condition, all right, of suffering, or a hellish-like condition, where you can be in such a bad spot that you would liken it onto being in hell. And the Most High has the power to do that, right? After you die, he can cast judgment on you. And it's not that you'll suffer that in the spirit world, but when you come back on the earth again, you'll suffer that. All right. So the Lord can, his judgment doesn't stop after or at your death. Unlike man, who can only kill you and that's it. The Lord, his doesn't stop there. And an inverse example is what King Solomon said in the book of Wisdom of Solomon. I forget the exact chapter, but he said, wherefore being good, I came into a body, I think it was undefiled. Because when sometimes you have people that come back on the earth reincarnated and they're crippled, they have Down syndrome, they come back in a messed up, deformed body, or they just live a very messed up life. That can be due to judgment for what they did in a previous life, right? And the Lord can do that to you. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings, and not one of them is forgotten before God? But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore, ye are of more value than many sparrows. So, you can, as it says, buy 5 sparrows for 2 farthings, which is a certain amount of money. But the Lord remembers each and one of those sparrows. So how much more for you? And I say unto you, whosoever shall confess me before men, him shall the Son of Man also confess before the angels of God. And that is, standing stiffly for the name of the Lord, right? Following his ways, teaching his word, and not being offended in the Lord. Likewise, he will confess us before the angels of God, which include, well, starting first, confessing us before the Father, and then the rest of the heavenly host. But he that denieth me before men shall be denied before the angels of God. And whosoever shall speak a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But unto him that blasphemeth against the Holy Spirit, it shall not be forgiven. And when you go into that word blasphemeth or blasphemeth, let's click into that. Why? Because the Holy Spirit is that. It's a pure spirit from the Most High himself. Right, to speak reproachfully, rail at, revile, blaspheme, to be evil spoken of. So that's a very dangerous, transgression that you don't want to be guilty of. And when they bring you into the synagogues and unto magistrates and powers, take ye no thought how or what thing ye shall answer, or what ye shall say. Why? Because by teaching the word and preaching the gospel of Yahushua, you were that's that's why he said that we were lambs amongst wolves, right? We would make ourselves a prey by doing that, even to those that he was speaking to at that time. And he said, don't worry when they bring you into their synagogues or before their magistrates and their councils. And don't worry about what you're going to say. For the Holy Spirit shall teach you in the same hour what ye ought to say. So just like when we do these lessons or when we go out to the highways and byways, when we speak, we don't premeditate. We haven't rehearsed 2 hours worth of speaking. We just come out there and then you start speaking and, you end up going through a whole lesson, right? Or street speaking, and it's the Spirit of the Lord that has given us the things that we say, right, in our minds, and the precepts and all of those onto the edification of the body of believers. So likewise, the Lord was exhorting them, look, don't worry about it. The Spirit will guide you in what you have to say in that time. And one of the company said unto him, so of those that were there listening to the Lord, one of them said, Master, speak to my brother, that he divide the inheritance with me. I'll read this also in the NLT. Then someone called from the crowd, Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me. And he said unto him, Man, who made me a judge or a divider over you? Right. So I'm not I'm not here to be a divider of inheritance. Okay. And he said unto them, Take heed and beware of covetousness. For a man's life consisteth not in the abundance of the things which he possesseth. See, so the Lord, threw a lesson in there as well to him and to those around. Now, it could be that maybe that was his older brother, right, who a certain portion of the inheritance would go to, and he wanted a portion of that. Maybe he coveted it, who knows, right? But nonetheless, the Lord gave that warning as well, right? Be careful not to covet to the point of just losing sight of everything solely based on your desire or greed for what another person has. Verse 16, for he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, so meaning his harvest, right? He planted and he had a great harvest. And he thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. Meaning he had so much crops, he didn't have space to store it. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. So he's basically like at the point where he's like, look, I've done this, that, and the third. I'm accomplished. I'm good. I can just chill. I can do whatever I want now and not have to worry about anything. But God said unto him, thou fool, this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then whose shall those things be? Your soul being required of you, meaning the Lord is going to bring you back to the spirit world. And once you die, all those things that you gathered, then who's it going to be? Right, which thou hast provided. So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. See, because the riches of this world are temporary. They were very, very, very extremely rich people at one point in history. They labored. They like when you go to the Persian Empire, I mean, they were just so rich and they did things to gain more riches. But guess what? They died. And that those riches went to somebody else. And that was that. So all the labor that they put their time, their life, and their effort into was temporary. And they don't have it now. They came back on the earth again in a different generation and all that. They just had to start from square one again. But those that labored for the Lord and stored up heavenly riches, those are with you always. Okay? No matter what incarnation you're in, those riches are stored up for you in heaven. Those are the riches worth laboring for. And he said unto his disciples, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, neither for the body what ye shall put on. The life is more than meat, and the body is more than raiment, meaning there's more to life than just what you eat, and more use to your body than just the clothing you're going to put on. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap. You don't see ravens with two other ravens, and then they got a yoke, and one of them is just like plowing, and then they come back during harvest time and come and start reaping. They don't do that. Which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. How much more are ye better than the fowls? Right? So the Lord feeds the fowls that are of much less significance than you. How much more for you? And which of you, with taking thought, can add to his stature 1 cubit? If ye then be not able to do that which is least, why take ye thought for the rest? So you can't even add an inch to your height, for example, just by thinking about it. And you're worried about survival and the things that are going to befall you, and you don't control that. Consider the lilies, how they grow, they toil not, they spin not, and yet I say unto you, that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. And what that means is the lilies of the field, toiling and spinning is the process of making thread that you would use to make clothing. And the Lord is saying lilies don't do that. But even Solomon in all his glory and the height, like he was so glorious, even the Queen of Sheba almost passed out upon seeing how glorious he was, even just his servants alone. In the way they were dressed, in their manners and all that. But even Solomon, in all that glory, having the best clothing and everything, was not dressed like one of these lilies. And what that it means is when you look at a lily, like multicolored ones, how one color of their, of them fades into another and how it all blends in, that was put together by the Lord. And Solomon could have had the best seamstress, the best workers, but none of them could have actually made him clothing that perfect. Okay. And the point the Lord is making here is that even the lilies that literally you can pluck up just like that and then they're gone are clothed better than Solomon, who was one of the richest and wisest of all. If then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? See? So if he can clothe those lilies that delicately, even better than Solomon, how much more for you who are doing his work? And ye seek not ye what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, neither be ye doubtful of mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. How are you going to serve the Lord without eating or without being alive? The Lord knows that. So if he tells you go and serve me, he has those things covered. That's what Yahweh Shai is saying here. The Lord knows you need these things. And it's not up to you to provide. He will provide that for you. You just focus on serving him. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags, which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. And this is saying, labor, like the scriptures say, labor for the meat which perisheth not. Okay, so labor for the bag that doesn't wax old, the treasures in heaven that don't fail, where nobody can come and steal it. No, the works that you're doing, right, is accumulating wealth in the heavens when you are laboring for the Lord. Nobody can come and take that from you. Nobody can deduct that from you. Nobody can bankrupt you of that. That's for you. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. So the place where your valuables are, that's where your mind is going to be. Somebody who has invested a lot in the world, their mind is going to be constantly on the world. Somebody who has a lot of stocks, their mind is going to be constantly looking at the market, because that's where their treasure is. But one who is rich towards God, whose labors have gone towards that's where their mind is going to be. Let your loins be girded about, and your lights burning, and ye yourselves like unto men that wait for the Lord, when he will return from the wedding, that when he cometh and knocketh, they may open unto him immediately. Right? So likening us being servants and the Lord to like one whose master attended the wedding. Be ready, so that when he returns and he knocks, you open the door for him. Blessed are those servants whom the Lord, when he cometh, shall find watching. Verily I say unto you, that he shall gird himself, and make them to sit down to meat, and will come forth and serve them. Meaning, like, those servants are going to be so blessed that that if they do what's pleasing to their master, and he comes and finds them watching, he will do the reverse. Okay, because it's a servant's job to gird himself and serve the master. But here he's saying the master will sit you down and serve you. And if he come in the second watch, or come in the third watch, and find them so, blessed are those servants. Right? And likewise to us, who we have been given a charge to watch, right, and to labor in this work for the Lord. And so when he returns, we have to be laboring. We have to be at a point where he can find us doing the thing that he asked us to do, so that we can be blessed, no matter what watch or hour in which the Lord comes. And this know, that if the good man of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched, and not have suffered his house to be broken through. Be ye therefore ready also, for the Son of Man cometh at an hour when ye think not. So, just like if you don't know when a thief is going to come and break into your house, but you know a thief is coming, you're going to be on constant alert. Okay? And that's why it's saying in verse 39, if he knew what hour, what time that thief would be coming, he would have kept his eyes open that whole entire time, to make sure that the second that thief pulls up, nope, grab him up, right? And not suffered his house to be broken through. So we got to be like that, because we don't know the exact date, but we see the signs. And so we got to watch, lest you get distracted and, get caught off guard and suffer your house to be broken through. Then Peter said unto him, Lord, speakest thou this parable unto us, or even to all? So is this parable applying to us, or is this for everybody? Right? NLT, Peter asked, Lord, is this illustration just for us, or for everyone? And the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season? I'll read this as well in the NLT. It says here, and the Lord replied, a faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his household servants and feeding them. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Right? Doing what? That which his Lord had appointed him to do. So in our case, what is it that the Lord has appointed us to do? Is to be faithful over this word, to teach it correctly, and to remain diligent. Of a truth I say unto you, that he will make him ruler over all that he hath, because he can trust that he can entrust, okay, position and power and all of those things to the hand of the servant, because the servant is faithful. But if that servant say in his heart, my Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to beat the men servants and maidens, and to eat and drink and be drunken, so rather than staying patient and faithful and ready to serve his master, he gets tired of waiting and decides to just go ahead and now start to beat the other men servants, okay, and treat them any way and anyhow, and eat and be drunken and so on. And that's likened onto an individual who gets tired, loses patience, doesn't want to continue to endure and to do what the Lord has commanded us to do in this time, which is to teach. And instead they turn on the rest of us who are actually doing what the Lord told us to do. And then eventually they just go back into the world and be drunken with the rest of them. The Lord of that servant will come in a day when he looketh not for him, right? When he is not aware, because he's not watching. And at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him sunder or in sunder, and will appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. And so what's that portion going to be? Destruction. Because those that don't believe, that's what they're going to get, that judgment. And so these wicked servants will partake of that same judgment, but worse, because they're going to be beaten with many stripes. Verse 47, and that servant which knew his Lord's will and prepared not himself, neither did according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes, because you knew better and you were willfully sinful, right? Because you knew better and you didn't. But he that knew not and did commit things worthy of stripes shall be beaten with few stripes. So he's still going to get beat, but not with as many stripes as one who knew who knew his master's will and didn't do it. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. So, for example, people in the world who are doing wickedness, yes, they're going to be destroyed. Somebody who was in this truth, who fell out and then went and joined them to do wickedness, they're going to get a harsher judgment. For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall much be required. Like the saying goes, with great power comes great responsibility. And to whom men have committed much, of him they will ask the more. Yeah, because if for example, if say a mayor, right, or a regular politician does something that is, wrong, right, to some degree, they're gonna get, accordingly punished, right, or reprimanded. Now, say a president of a country does something to the same degree, right, of folly or stupidity, there's more backlash because there's more committed onto that person. So being that there's more committed onto them, they have less of wiggle room for folly. Okay. So there's a harsher punishment for things like that, and there's less room or less slack that will be cut for them. I am come to send fire on the earth, and what will I, if it be already kindled? NLT says, I have come to set the world on fire, and I wish it were already burning. But I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how am I straitened till it be accomplished? And he was talking about the job that he had to do before completing his mission, right? NLT, I have a terrible baptism to suffer ahead of me, and I am under a heavy burden until it is accomplished. And that is what the Lord sent him down to do, to preach the word, right? To set up the apostles, the men, and to give them the spirit, and also to be that sacrifice, to fulfill the things that were written of him. Suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth? So you think I'm here to bring peace? I tell you nay, but rather division. For from henceforth there shall be 5 in one house divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. The father shall be divided against the son, and the son against the father, the mother against the daughter, and the daughter against the mother, the mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And why is this? Because you would have some that would believe, and you would have some that won't, and that would cause a clash. Okay, that's the division. By the Lord coming on the earth, not everybody's going to believe on him, but at the same time, not everybody's going to deny him. And eventually that will lead to separation. And he said unto the people, or also unto the people, when ye see a cloud rise out of the west, straightway ye say, there cometh a shower, and so it is, which is rain. And when ye see the south wind blow, ye say, there will be heat. And it cometh to pass. Ye hypocrites, ye can discern the face of the sky and of the earth, but how is it that ye do not discern this time? So you're able to tell when you see the signs in the heavens, oh, it's going to rain, or things going on the earth, oh, this is what's coming. But you can't discern this time that you're in. Because you had some of them, once again, that didn't realize what Yahushua, who he was, number one, and what time they were living in. Because that was the fulfillment of prophecies concerning him. He came to fulfill those. But as we keep on reading, you'll find out a lot of them were under the misconception that Yahushua was there at that time to restore the kingdom. That immediately, the second he got to Jerusalem, everything was going to be restored and Israel was going to be back on top again. Verse 57, yea, and why even of yourselves judge ye not what is right? When thou goest with thine adversary to the magistrate, as thou art in the way, give diligence, that thou mayest be delivered from him, lest he hale thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and the officer cast thee into prison. This is like in Matthew when it talks about agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way. So if there's a matter and you can solve it or diffuse it, it's better that it doesn't get escalated. Okay, lest it gets to the point where now you end up in prison. I tell thee, thou shalt not depart thence till thou hast paid the very last mite. So if it was a matter concerning debt or anything like that, once you're thrown in prison, you're gonna be stuck there till you pay, whatever it is you had to pay. So make sure that you handle it before it gets to that point. And that brings us to the end of the book of Luke, the 12th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Rachak Kudash. And until next time, Shalom.